So far, every time Hitler has challenged the world has blinked and demurred and allowed Hitler to get his way. Remilitarization of Germany, the remilitarization of the Rhineland, the Anschluss of Austria. Each time the world goes, okay, I guess it's fair, justifying to itself. Well, now we come to the quintessential moment, the apotheosis of appeasement, if you will, the time that is the tipping point, the equivalent of the assassination of the Gracchi back in Roman times and the allowance of Gaius Marius to have his own private army, which really doomed the Roman Republic, both of those events. Well, we have that now in what's about to happen in August and September of 1938 with the Munich Conference. Okay, let's start off. Central Europe includes the nation, the hybrid nation of Czechoslovakia. It includes the Czech lands and the Slovak lands. But the Czech lands had been a part of the old Holy Roman Empire. Holy Roman Empire! As such, the Czech lands, like much of the Holy Roman Empire, had a polyglot, heterodox people. It was not a national empire, it was a heterodox polyglot. That means a multinational, multilingual empire. Well, after World War I, Wilson cobbles together the Czechs and the Slovaks to form the Czechoslovak lands. But it's not purely Czech or Slovak. It's Central European, which means a blending. And this includes the mountain regions along the Ore Mountains and the Sudeten Mountains, an area that has a significant German minority, the Sudeten Germans. This bright green area is the part of the Czech region known as the Sudetenland. These are ethnic and cultural Germans living under the Czechs. Now, the Czechs are a Slavic people. They're a distinct people. They're not like the Poles, the Lithuanians, or the Russians. They have their own unique history going back to the early Middle Ages, but in fact, they're Slavs, not Germans. And the Czech language is a Slavic language. It's not a German language. So what Hitler begins to do is complain that the Czechs are abusing the German population in the Sudetenland. Now, are the Czechs engaged in a policy of mass rape of pure German maids? Are they engaged in a policy of legally defrauding Germans out of their farms and out of their property? Are they engaged in the thrashing and beating up of German boys and men? Are they engaged in forcing Germans not to speak German, but to speak Czech, and only teaching Czech in schools and so forth? Not really. There are always frictions and incidents when you have people who are different. This is a reality that a lot of people who believe in the multicultural quilt don't really like to acknowledge. But I'm from the Bronx, another multicultural, multi-ethnic, multilingual region. And I can tell you, tribalism is far from dead. So there are people who are bigoted, racist numbskulls and bigoted, culturally chauvinistic numbskulls, and these people sometimes do things. So if you're looking for a bunch of nasty stuff, you'll find it. Now, the Czechs feel reasonably secure as any of these microstates in Central Europe. Why? Because the Czechs have overt military mutual defense pacts with the French and the British. The Czechs are part of what is known as the Little Entente, which are the number of bilateral defense treaties that the French have, and by extension that the British sort of have too, with these Central European microstates. As collective security from the League of Nations peters out into the nothingness that it probably always was, in fact, this collective security notion is replaced by a hard, firm promise. If anyone attacks the Czechs, the British and French and the other members of the Little Entente will be on the Czechs' side. Anyone, the assumption is the Germans. But Hitler has turned up the heat, and across all German media are stories and tearful accounts of German women who've been abused, German families that have been kicked off their land. You've got smug troops of the Czechoslovak army and juxtaposed with German refugees looking miserable. And it's all designed not to be a rational critique of Czech policy in the Sudeten German regions. It's designed to inflame the most primitive of tribal emotions among Germans inside of Germany. In other words, Hitler's beating the war drums really hard. And the rest of the world is stuck fearing that a new European war, maybe another world war, is going to start over the Sudetenland. People begin gathering gas masks. They begin gathering emergency supplies. I have no idea whether they're gathering toilet paper or not, but who knows? Maybe they did, like certain hoarding jerks are doing today. During the coronavirus, CCP virus, Chinese virus, COVID-19 outbreak. What we do know is that Hitler is seriously making preparations, and he is assuring everyone, it's not a threat, it's a promise. If the Czechs do not give in to his demands, which is basically to detach the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia and give it to Germany, then Germany is going to go to war. Well, here's the problem with Hitler's demands, aside from the fact that it's clearly extortion. The geography of Czechoslovakia protects it with mountains in this arc. It's one of the things that kept the Czechs distinct from the Germans. These mountains are relatively easily defended. They also include most of the Czechs' reserves of iron ore and coal, which together come and make steel. It also includes the Czechs and the Czechoslovak military fortress network, as well as many of their munitions factories and arms manufacturing plants, including making tanks and good light machine guns that become the basis of Britain's Bren gun. The Czechs are not soft. They've got a tight, hardcore little army and really good geography. And they have an ironclad diplomatic promise, a defense treaty with the French and the British that say that while the Germans are stuck trying to cross through the mountains into the Czech and Slovak lands, that Britain and France will go to war. In fact, at this time, the Soviets promise that if Poland allows the passage of Soviet troops through their territory, the Soviets will send military forces to fight side by side with the Czechs against fascism. Now, no one in their right minds is going to let the Soviets in, because once you will invite Soviet troops into your land, they're never going away, not without a war or some major problem, not without a lot of suffering and hardship. But what this means is that the Czechs have a good defensive position. They have promises from powerful allies, including the Soviets, to go after the Germans. Italy is by no means assured to get involved on Germany's side. They're probably going to keep hands off. So it's going to be a war of Germany trying to conquer the Czechs through the heart of their defense network, and with the rest of the world coming in against them. It's a war. It's a great war, but it's not doomsday. From a Czech and an Allied point of view, the Germans are in a really bad position, but they're willing to pull the trigger. At least Hitler convinces everyone that he is willing to start another war over the Sudeten Germans right here, right now. He's doing what every bully is good at, convincing you to degrade yourself because somehow they're more scary than your own victimization and degradation. That is the one power a bully has. And Hitler has it in spades. Now we come to the personality. So that is the situation, actually. The Czechs are in a very good position if war is going to come in August or September 1938. In fact, the Germans aren't really fully prepared for war yet. Their Army, Air Force, and certainly their Navy are not ready for war. We'll see what happens now that Hitler is challenging the world and seeing if they'll once again blink. Once again, the anti-Nazi Germans are hoping that Hitler has gone too far and that he will be driven out of power.